very good morning, everybody, and welcome to this Writing a Great Investor Pitch session brought to you by Natwest Entrepreneurship. My name is Josh Winfield. I look after the Natwest Business Builder program, a free virtual accelerator program available to new and established businesses. So please do check that out. And this is one of our sessions that we deliver as part of that. Writing a great investor pitch is so incredibly important, or any pitch for that matter, is incredibly important when we think about how we put our business across. And yet with such an important piece of material and such an important thing to have in our entrepreneur or business owner arsenal, it is a source of fear and anxiety for so many people. And so as we go through this brief session this morning, I'm going to break down the pitch into three component parts and talk about some of the psychologies behind those as well, to hopefully banish some demons and give you the clarity to move forward and deliver the pitch in a clear and confident way. As it's Global Entrepreneurship Week as well, so very happy Global Entrepreneurship Week to everybody. I'll be very briefly detailing our 10K challenge, our competition for the week, and how you can look into that and get involved too. So thank you very much for joining me. And thank you for being here in what is sure to be a fantastic festival over the next day or two. A little bit about me. I look after the Business Builder program for NatWest. Previous to that, I was a business coach working one-to-one with about 350 founders over a couple of years, supporting them from idea stage through to scale up. And previous to that, I was an entrepreneur myself. I owned and operated my own business for about 6.5 years before working in a number of other ventures between exiting that business and starting here in the bank. So love entrepreneurship, love new business, enterprise, love pitching, love presenting, and anything to do with the ecosystem. So it's a great privilege to be here talking to you all this morning. And so in terms of what we've got coming up, as I said, we'll look at the importance of the 60-second pitch. We'll look at the anxieties and the fears that are often associated with it. And then once we've kind of understood where they perhaps come from, we'll think about breaking the pitch down into content. What do I leave out? What do I put in? How do I structure it for maximum impact, but also so that I can retain it better? And how do I deliver it? You know, it's such a science, and with so much psychology and so much at stake, a really concise pitch delivery is really important. Now, the 60-second pitch is the framework that we'll focus on, but it's important to consider that actually, whether you're building a 3-minute pitch, a 5-minute pitch, a 10-minute pitch, or whatever it may be, actually all we're doing is extrapolating and including the amount of data that we would put in and include at any of those stages. Yes, you may go a couple of steps further too, but the building blocks of a 60-second pitch and a 10-minute pitch, the DNA is very similar. And then at the end, as I said very briefly, to celebrate Global Entrepreneurship Week, I'll be talking a little bit about our 10K challenge as well. But just to begin with, and just to move forward, I've already talked about Business Builder, so we'll come back to that at the end. As we go through this session, it is an interactive session, so please do ask questions. We've got some fantastic support, which I don't usually have on these sessions to process questions, so do keep them coming in thick and fast, and I'll try and answer them as we go through as well, but we'll also take some time for questions at the end. I've got about half an hour's worth of content to go through with you this morning, and so we'll get through that nice and breezy. The content or the structure of a 60-second pitch is nice and straightforward, as it should be. But I'd like to start with this question: when might you need a pitch? Now, this is a really interesting question, because the context of this session is obviously around investment and writing a great investor pitch. And obviously through programs like Dragon's Den and The Apprentice or Shark Tank in the US, we know that investment and pitching are synonymous with one another. They coexist. But actually, this session can actually go a lot wider when it comes to pitching, because if you haven't got a pitch that's ready to go from this afternoon, then you could well be missing out on opportunities every single day. The fact of the matter is that we never know who we're going to run into. We never know who they know. And so as a result, if we're not pitch ready, we could miss out on opportunities every single day. We might not run into the individual that becomes our end investor, but we may well run into the person that knows that person. And if we're not ready to accurately explain our business, then they're not able to then act as an evangelist on our part. And so whether we find ourselves pitching in front of a panel of investors, or somebody innocuously in a coffee shop asks, "So what do you do?" If we're not ready, if we don't have the pitch structure, then we can't possibly hope to take full advantage of that opportunity. And so we're going to go through the pitch structure today. And whilst I appreciate that if somebody asks you in a coffee shop, well, what do you do? You're not going to go into that full Dragon's Den pitch structure, because let's face it, they'll drink up and leave very quickly. If you do and take the time to put that pitch structure together, and somebody asks you that in a more casual setting, you can pull out the relevant pieces of information, those key statements like that, and deliver really, really key answers very, very quickly that blow people away. So make sure you've always got a pitch. Make sure you're pitch ready, whether you're going for investment right now, whether that's your plan for the future. Make sure you're always ready and equipped to concisely explain what your business does. And before I move any further, I also want to talk about and normalize something, because I've referenced shows like Dragon's Den and The Apprentice, and pitching is an intrinsic part of those shows, but I think we tend to get conditioned or lulled into a false narrative about pitching by those shows, which is that after a 60-second or a 3-minute exchange, somebody is going to hand over inches of cash to us. In reality, that doesn't happen. The amount of investments that actually make it to signing on the dotted line from Dragon's Den is a fraction of those that we see the successful handshakes from. Because the fact of the matter is that a 60-second pitch or a 3-minute pitch, the point of it is not to raise investment. The point is not to onboard that resource. The point of those initial exploratory pitches is simply to have another conversation with somebody. It is as simple as that. And yet, because of those shows and because of what we're exposed to, we tend to condition ourselves that this is the one and only opportunity I've got to get all this information out. And how on earth do I structure that? Oh my God, that's so overwhelming. We get overwhelmed, we feel like we wouldn't know how to concisely explain it, and we put the pressure on ourselves that everything is on the line. Whereas in truth, those secondary and tertiary conversations are the ones that lead to the investment or the resource coming into your business. And so whether you take anything else away from this session or not, give yourself the criteria when you're writing that 60-minute or 3-minute pitch that you're not looking to raise that investment, that you're not looking to get that resource. You are simply looking to convey enough information for somebody to go, that sounds really interesting. We need to have another conversation about that. Your pitch has worked on that basis. And so with that in mind, we're going to break the pitch down into 3 key components. Now, as I said, whether you're writing a 60-second elevator pitch, whether you're writing a 3-minute, 5-minute, 10-minute pitch, the infrastructure stays the same, and it can be extrapolated on a minute-by-minute basis. But the 3 key components of a 60-second pitch are this: content, structure, and delivery. Now, we'll start with content because there are 3 main content rules. The first content rule being nice and simple, the number of words. 150 words maximum in a 60-second exchange. So please feel free to extrapolate that up to 3, 5, and 10 minutes, but in a 60-second pitch, 150 words should be a hard maximum. Why? Well, because that's already 2.5 words a second. 2.5 words a second is plenty. And the problem is that whilst any human being can talk faster than that, and some people I appreciate will talk faster than others, the reality of the situation is that if we try and put too much more information in there, we run the risk of overwhelming the audience that's listening to us. The human mind can only process so much information. And so if we speak too quickly, we run the risk of overwhelming people so that they spend so much time processing our last sentence, they stop listening to the one that we're saying. Think about it. If you've ever been walking down a street and you've been approached by somebody from the British Heart Foundation or Barnardo's or the Samaritans. Now, they're doing incredibly important, incredibly noble work. But typically what tends to happen is, hi, I just want a couple of minutes of your time to talk about this and the great initiatives that we're doing. You can do ABC, we want you to engage in this way, and you can do this, and you can engage with us, and you can pay this way, and so on. And they speak incredibly quickly because they know that all we're thinking about is, oh, I really need a coffee, or I haven't got time for this, or where's my train, and so on and so on. And so they speak quickly to try and avoid or minimize inconvenience. But do we take it in? Very rarely. And so if you speak too quickly, if you exceed 150 words per 60 seconds, the chances are that you're going to have a very, very similar effect with your audience. So 150 words. If you're writing a pitch for the first time, use Word, use Google Docs, whatever you use, keep the word count close at heart. Now, it's not going to look like a lot of words on a page. It's going to look like a really, really small amount in truth. But remember, you don't have to get everything out in that first exchange. All of the great in-depth information can come out in those secondary conversations. All you're trying to do now is create the movie trailer to your business. So that's the first content rule, 150 words per 60 seconds. But with content comes a few other rules. And the next one is the 5-year-old test, or the 5-year-old rule, which is that you need to keep it nice and simple. Would a 5-year-old understand your business from a 60-second pitch? Now, in a 60-second pitch environment, you want to cast your net as wide as possible. In a 3-minute, 5-minute, 10-minute pitch, the chances are that you've probably already engaged with individuals, so you can assume a bit of knowledge or interest. But still, filling any kind of pitch at any stage with loads of acronyms, advertising speak, abbreviations, or jargon runs the risk of you then alienating a wider audience. because you cannot assume that everybody has the same level of specific knowledge, industry knowledge as you. Now, as a bank, we're really guilty of that. And particularly even with something as innocent as job titles. My job title within the bank is Business Builder Manager, which gets abbreviated to BBM all the time. And within our accelerator hubs, you'll have acceleration managers or AMs, development managers or DMs, and regional entrepreneur directors, REDs. And so when you walk into our hub for the first time, you can be introduced to a BBM, a DM, an AM, and an RED. And if you haven't had those definitions pre-explained to you and I start referring to them, you're going to be at best confused by what I'm saying, and at worst, probably a bit alienated. You're certainly not going to feel like what I'm saying is relevant to you. And so that's something that I could do very, very innocently, but actually stand a risk of turning off a majority of my audience. So keep it really, really simple. No acronyms, no advertising speak, no abbreviations. When you strip all those away, you minimize the risk of people self-selecting out and going, well, this clearly isn't relevant to me because I don't understand this. So 150 words, nice and simple. Now, if you haven't got a 5-year-old in your life, please don't go and find one. There's all sorts of rules about that. But what's important is, well, who is that equivalent in your life then? Could it be, daughter or son or elderly parent or somebody that is so far removed by what you do in your friendship circle? For me, it's my grandmother. I work with a lot of fantastic deep tech and fintech businesses, and they're brilliant at what they do, but they're not so strong when it comes to pitching. And of course, in their industries, investment is a natural part of their process. And yet they can't concisely explain what they do. And so I get them to give me their pitch on Word, and I say, I'm going to take this to my pitching expert. I print it off and I give it to my grandmother, and I go, now, do you understand what that business does? Now, this is a lady who is 92 and can't work her DVD remote, and she's earned the right not to be able to work her DVD remote. And so she's a great example of, does she understand? Because she's also very, very representative of the investment landscape, which is that she is she is somebody that doesn't have any industry experience in what we're particularly investing in, but she does sit on a pile of cash. And that is very, very representative of an investment landscape too. You cannot assume that your investor is going to have the same level of technical knowledge or industry experience or background as you. And so if you write a pitch that is very, very technically involved, you could potentially turn off your biggest investment ally. So 150 words, nice and simple. And then the final content rule is that with that 150 words, you've got to be careful about the language that you use. And as a result, words like this, although admittedly not an exhaustive list, are absolutely banned. Because all they do is they trigger a sense of uncertainty, of caution, and most importantly of all, they trigger in an audience a massive sense of doubt. If you include words like this in a pitch, then individuals are going to doubt what you say because they're non-committal, and they foster a sense of, this individual isn't sure, this individual isn't in control. And when you're going in an investment environment, nobody is going to invest in an individual that they don't feel is in control of what they're talking about. Now, what I'm not saying in a 60-second pitch is that you should lie. Absolutely not. Because the fact of the matter is that if your pitch works and you have that second or third conversation, any untruths are going to be found out. So it's not the thing to do. But what I am saying is that, and this is where the psychology of pitching comes in, the use of language is very, very important. Now, I see this very, very regularly in pitches. And a great example is that I'll regularly hear something along the lines of, well, we'll hopefully secure investment in the middle of the year and we'll probably get our first product to market in January. Hopefully, probably. There is a reason those two words are at the top of the slide deck, because they are the ones that most commonly appear in a 60-second pitch. Hopefully raise investment in the middle of the year and probably get a product to market in January. But what that tells me is there's no real commitment. There's certainly no certainty. I don't believe that that individual is in control of what they're doing. Whereas if they'd said to me, we are actively seeking investment with a view to taking our product to market in January, they haven't told me anything different. They haven't overpromised. They haven't committed to having an investor. They haven't assuredly said we will, but they have conveyed the message in language that suggests they are in control of that process. And so as a result, we have to make sure that we use nice, confident language. And so that's it for content. 150 words, nice and simple, and nice, confident language. Now, the structure is really, really important. And that's what we're going to come on to for the final 10 minutes of this session. You're not guaranteed an audience with a pitch. And so as a result, you have to make sure that when you start a pitch, you're starting it in a way that is going to guarantee and grab the attention of those that you're listening to. At a networking event, even in an investor event, you cannot guarantee that they will listen to you. And so starting your pitch with a hook that is going to get people listening to you, get them to put their pens down or stop tapping away on their laptop and engage with you is really important. And so a shock tactic, I've seen people shout or jump on furniture. I've seen people use interesting statistics. It's really, really important because, again, you've got the fact that they're not guaranteed to listen to you, compounded by the fact that people form a subconscious opinion very, very quickly as to whether they want to engage with you or not. Your hook is designed to combat that. Whereas in truth, if you start a pitch with, "Hi, my name's Josh from Natwest," nobody is going to engage with that. So something like an interesting statistic, one of the best ones I ever heard was a hospitality business based in Birmingham who specialized in creating containers that protected hotel shampoos and things like that. And their hook was Britain steal 400 million gallons of hotel shampoo each year. It's a left field statement. It gets people to, one, look up and go, because they're not expecting a statement like that. It gives people that sense of, well, who has never stolen hotel shampoo? There must be 300 bottles in my bathroom cabinet alone. So people have that sense of identification, but most importantly of all, people are engaged. They're not looking anywhere else. So hook people into what you're saying. As soon as you've done that, explain the problem that you solved to me. Don't go in with your name because, again, you've worked hard to get that attention. Now you're going into 3 really simple statements. First of all, tell me what the problem is. Then tell me who has that problem. And then finally, paint the picture by telling me how that individual feels as a result of that problem. So the problem is this: it affects these people and they feel like this as a result. 3 really simple statements. Remember, you've only got 150 words. You'll have used 10 for your hook. And so for these 3 statements, you've probably got 30 to 35 words to play with. All of the detail that you want, and the chances are you'll be passionate about solving this problem. That can all come out in later conversations. But what's the problem? Who has it? And how do they feel as a result? Get people to emotionally engage and feel what it is that you're talking about. As soon as you've explained the problem, you're going to do exactly the same with your solution statement. And again, this is 3 really simple statements. This is the section where entrepreneurs and business owners will tend to want to wax lyrical about their product. But the fact of the matter is that all those features and benefits, they can all come out at a later date. Very, very simply, tell me, what is your innovation? What is your business, your product, your service? Tell me, what is it? Tell me why it's different. And tell me fundamentally, well, why should I come to you? 3 really, really high-level statements. So problem statement. What's the problem? Who has it? How do they feel? Solution statement. What is your solution? Why is it different? And why would I come to you? 6 bullet points, 70 words maximum over all 6. When you add in your hook, you're already 80 words into your pitch and you're halfway through the pitch structure. So if you try and put any more in, what's going to come next is going to suffer. So now that you've explained the problem, you've explained the solution, a quick introduction, literally name and where you're from, is probably useful. But now it's time to start evidencing the opportunity that's on offer. So first things first, you don't have to use all of these, but I'm going to go through a couple of examples that are really, really good, that really demonstrate this is why what I'm talking about is worth getting involved in. And so something like market size is really, really convenient because it allows you to demonstrate that you've done your research and you've positioned your business well. This is a £500 billion market, global market, that we're looking for 0.1% of. Or this is a £2 million cottage industry that I'm looking for 20% of. There's no right or wrong, better or worse, but it demonstrates that you've done your research around where you sit. If you're going for investment, that credibility is going to be massively important. Now, numbers in general are a very, very convenient way to demonstrate credibility as well. So things like onboarding your first customer, your 100th customer, your 1000th, achieving a particular level of turnover or gross profit. They all demonstrate that the business is a going concern and it's moving in the right direction. So numbers are a great way of demonstrating credibility, but with a warning that whatever numbers you include at any stage of the pitch, 60 seconds, 3 minutes, 5 minutes, be prepared to be challenged on them. So just keep that in mind. Now, a really, really good one that demonstrates personal commitment is around traction to date. So traction can be anything. Have you been shortlisted for any awards? Have you been voted best product in a category? Are you working with a university to commission a research report that demonstrates your commitment to problem solving? Whatever kind of traction it is, there is always something to demonstrate that this is something that you are passionate about, committed to, and that is moving in the right direction. And then the final point, risks, can be quite useful, again, the same as market size, to demonstrate that you are credible and you understand your position in the market. And so saying something along the lines of, we have two very close competitors, whilst we are market leaders at the moment, if investment isn't delivered in a timely fashion, we could lose our market dominance. That's a great way to demonstrate to an investor that you're not wearing rose-tinted glasses, but you are completely realistic about what's happening in the business. The penultimate section is your team. Fundamentally, if you're on your own, this is your time to talk about who you are and what qualifies you to be there. Now, this is not qualification, don't misunderstand me. If you are, if you've had 25 years experience in the industry and you've started up on your own, that's a perfectly reasonable justification. If you have a bachelor's, master's, or PhD in the subject that you're now starting in, that's perfect too. Or equally, if you are the person that's had the experience, you've walked a mile in your customer's shoes and you want to make sure that nobody ever feels like that again, that is completely understandable too. There is no right or wrong, but with the team section, you're really trying to justify, why should I come to you as a person? Because as we know, people buy from people. If you do have a team, briefly mentioning the size of your team and the positions filled is important. And equally, if you're going for financial investment, the chances are a portion of that will be dedicated to building the team too. So mentioning who your next hire is important too. And then finally, your ask. What do you need to progress your business? At the end of a pitch, we're very polite in this country, and we tend to go, thank you very much for listening to me, and then we slope off. But at the end of a pitch, you have the power to ask that audience for what it is your business needs most. And so whether it's access to funding, referrals to customers, introductions to mentors, whatever it is, make sure you give yourself the best chance of progressing your business every time you deliver your pitch. And whilst your pitch will evolve over time, your ask will change with every audience that you have. And so that's it for pitch structure. It seems like a lot for 60 seconds. It seems like a lot for 150 words. But as a suggestion, when it comes to writing it, write everything in red first, because that's what's going to get you the second conversation. I've seen so many people at the end of one of these sessions write hook at the top of a piece of paper and get frustrated because they can't think of one. But if you do that, then we don't write the rest of the session. So write the problem, the solution, the opportunity, the team, and the ask. The hook will come to you tomorrow morning when you've had breakfast or you're having a shower or doing the school run. It will come. And then finally, the final point is around delivery. There's no secret to delivery. It's a performance. It's not an act. And so the only key to really passionate delivery is to rehearse it. Do not rely on cue cards or notes to deliver a 60-second pitch, because you will avoid or deprive people of making a connection with you. If people aren't connected with you in an investment context, they're not going to go into business with you. So make sure it's well rehearsed, that you speak slowly, and that you use language that sounds like you. Don't include words or lexicon that you're not comfortable with, because your pitch will feel very disingenuous. And remember, with body language as a final point, it's very difficult to convey body language at the moment whilst we're virtual. The best thing that you can do is make sure that you're sat up straight and look directly into your device camera. That is going to portray that you are, that's the best possible way to communicate with the person at the other end of that broadcast. And it is as simple as that: content, structure, delivery. So I hope that's really been useful. If you would now like the opportunity to get involved with our 10K challenge, make sure you take time to start writing your own pitch over the next week or so, and head over to the Natwest Business Hub, where you'll see all of the details of how to enter our 10K challenge. You basically need to write and record your pitch and send it in to us before the 30th of November. But all the details on the Natwest Business Hub if you Google that. But for now, thank you very much for listening to me. Please do take the time to sign up for Business Builder. I understand the link will be communicated to you, where you'll be able to recap all of the tips from today's session, and you'll be able to really build on those, and a lot of other personal development and business development modules too. But for now, thank you very much for listening to me. If there are any questions, please do send them in. But if not, I look forward to speaking to you soon. Enjoy the festival, stay safe, and happy Global Entrepreneurship Week. Thanks very much, everybody.